Hey guys, it's somebody completely new on the couch this time. It's me, Ethan, and today we're going to talk a little bit about Sword and Shield, something that's been out for a little bit while now. So we're going to talk about some opinions we have on the game, just some things we like and dislike, just some overall stuff that we get for impressions for the game. So buckle in, and you're watching the Motley Broadcast. Hey guys, well, welcome back. We're gonna kind of start with some discussions of Sword and Shield right now. So I think a good way to start this video would just be some likes about the game.
Yeah, for sure. Because no matter how you feel about a game, there's always good and bad. Don't kid yourself. There's no such thing as a completely bad or a completely good game.
No, of course not. So I'm going to start with some of my likes and dislikes. So I think some of the things I really loved about the game was, despite the whole tree controversy thing, I actually did like the graphics. Just some of the fog effects and the weather actually made it feel like I was within that environment. Now I know some of the trees were a bit off-putting, and then of course you had the occasional people and Pokemon popping into existence, but for me, that didn't really matter. I just I went with it, and I watched the game, or played, I guess I played the game, I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
But something else that I liked was just the move effects. Some of them, I know they had noticed, they'd taken a few move effects, and they had upped the special effects for those. Just some of the cool ones, like Pyro Ball from Cinderance, or moves like
Drumbeat for, Big Grass Monkey Boy. I don't remember names well.
Rillaboom?
Rillaboom, there we go.
Yes. Okay. I loved the camping system, of course. I think that's something everyone tends to like about that game. It's just a great way just to quickly bond with your Pokemon. And it was very reminiscent of the Poffin making from Sinnoh region, and then it's like taking the Pokemon Ami up to a better level, because it feels like you're actually playing with them rather than going to a fantasy world where you're just gonna tickle them for a little bit so that they laugh and feel better towards you. This is no, you're going to sit down with your Pokemon with your freaking 5,000 yard big whale lord, and you're gonna feed him some spicy curry. Like, that's just fun. It's just some other things I liked about the game. I liked the rivals Bede and Marnie. Great characters. I think Marnie could have gotten a little more attention, but I mean, that's probably just my personal opinion about it. She didn't have to. And I've got to tell you, the rush of beating Leon, just worth it.
Let's see. So for me, I will preface this. I haven't actually finished the games yet. I've been doing a lot of stuff that hasn't been recorded, and it's also gotten in the way of me enjoying some quality Pokemon time. But I have gotten through about, I'd say 1/3 of the game, and there's definitely been a lot I've liked. I'm a little bit on the mid side of the graphics, but overall I feel like to make the game too realistic would actually take away from what Pokemon is as a game. So I did enjoy the graphics, although, you know, there are the issues with them, like the trees. Occasionally my character would be floating in midair. Not enough that you could like really tell, just like, you know, an inch or so off the air, but like it happened. But all in all, I think it's Pokemon graphics, and I think anyone that is talking about like, well, you know, Skyrim had better graphics back then, it's never going to look like Skyrim. You know, the graphics are never going to look like that. So all said and done, I did like the graphics behind the game. Some of the other things I liked is, after Alola, gosh, was I ready for some real gyms again. I don't want to rail on Alola too hard, but I miss the gym sessions, and I love the new gyms. The new challenges for them, I thought that was a real interesting take. I still got to fight gym trainers as usual. It was a little more interesting, like the first gym and Wooloo rounding. That's just kind of a cool thing to do that fits in with who the gym leader is and the fact that gym leaders have lives outside of kicking your sorry can because your Pokemon are underleveled. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Some of the other things I liked, I love the camping system. I think it's the full integration of spending time with your Pokemon that we've really been waiting to see for quite a long time. Probably ever since you could start taking care of your Pokemon in X and Y, I think it was. When,
yes.
Yeah, when you could, like, dry them with a blow dryer and all that stuff. And just all of that, really. I think it's the full culmination of it. And I'm really loving the storyline and the characters. I agree about Marnie. I wish some of the interactions with Hop were interactions with Marnie instead, because I don't actually like Hop a lot. I think he gets annoying pretty quick. But that's fixed by the other two. Bede makes me want to punch him in the face. And now that's not a bad thing. Sometimes you want to hate a character. And I think they've done a good job of making Bede, like, I want to pound him into the ground every time I meet him. Like, come on, dude, let's battle. And that's exactly how I should feel. I should feel fired up to get in battles with my rivals. So I thought that was a really good change. And I've loved the wild area. So far, I've spent way too much time exploring in there. That's also part of the reason I haven't finished the game. I'm way over-leveled for the gyms. But it's great to go out there and catch Pokemon in what I think is a pretty fair balance between the Let's Go system and the traditional random encounters. I think that was a beautiful way to bind that, and I don't think it should go away. I think, should we go ahead and transition into some more mechanical stuff now?
Yeah, so one of the first things we really wanted to touch on was camping, which I think enough. Do you want to just skip on over that then?
Let's talk about first, what is your favorite aspect of camping? I am curious about that.
The curry. It's not because I'm a food person. I am a food person. But it's not because of the food. It's just like, you get to finally take recipe making and all these berries you find, which, like, 90% I don't use anyways, because my Pokemon already have another held item, so there's no reason to have them hold a berry, which is going to go away after one round.
Right.
So it gives me a reason to actually use these berries and toss them into a pot and then make this what actually looks like really good curry and feed it to me and my Pokemon. And just that, like, build up to, like, is it a great one? Is it a good one? Is it an excellent one? Like, having all that right there during the curry scene is just a lot of fun. And it's almost like an Iron Chef kind of show.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, what will the top chef think of your curry today? And then you'll find out and just have a ton of fun. And I also like the fact that it gives your Pokemon XP in addition to friendship. So it's just like, if they survived your melt your mouth curry, then they get a little bit of XP for it.
Oh, and also heal them too.
Oh yeah, it's great because I'm not sure if the Nuzlocke rules would change for this because it's technically a Pokemon Center, but it's based off of your own resources. So, it adds a whole new level to the gameplay. You can make Sword and Shield a game where the only way you can heal is through camping, or even just be like, you can't use camping at all. So it adds a whole new element of gameplay that you would otherwise not get in any other game. So I would definitely think camping, like, I hope that stays.
Yeah, and with all mechanics, they are what you make of them. And I think the more time you spend camping and the more you integrate it into your gameplay, the more you'll enjoy it, quite frankly. So if you haven't been a real big proponent of camping, I would suggest giving it a try. A lot of times in the older games, like playing with my Pokemon, or in maybe Unova, where you could do super training or all that, where they would punch the different types of punching bags. I never really got into that a lot, but I've done a lot of camping, and part of that is a lot of my Pokemon are more friendly with me than any of my others have ever been. So I think, yeah, I like camping.
I like camping.
All right. Next on our list is battles?
Yeah, so the Pokemon battles were a little lackluster. And the reasoning I have behind it is I can't help but look back at Gen 3 with Pokemon Emerald.
Pokemon Emerald!
Sorry.
That is another conversation. Oh man, we could go on for hours.
Yeah, so we'll cut it short for you guys. But basically, you know, the battle frontier, after you beat the champion, you get to go to this little island, which has so many different battle styles, all based around the 1-on-1, 2-on-2 battles.
Even battle tents in the cities as you come across them provided that a smaller taste of flavor, but still.
Yeah, and with these newer games having, I guess this is going a little bit into post-game. We can come
Right,
back
yeah,
to,
let's.
we'll come back to that. But with Emerald, you got to be able to play battles that were not only 1-on-1 in the traditional sense, you got those battles which random effects happened in each room, and so you'd had to deal with your Pokemon being poisoned, or having a opponent who is just one of the harder opponents. And then you've got something like I believe the Battle Pyramid.
Yes.
Yeah, the
Yes.
Battle Pyramid, which I think could be integrated into Sword and Shield or any game after with a wild area so well. Because then you could just take the area in which you would run around and normally encounter wild Pokemon, just make ones that float up everywhere, and then also with the random encounters, have little trainers just posted around so you could run into them or not. Maybe integrate like a low light system to where you can only see just a few feet in front of you.
I mean, we're almost talking in concept of a dungeon here, or a gauntlet to run.
Yeah.
Sort of like, and I don't know how much this compares because I haven't been there yet, but I remember Victory Road was god awful. I mean, it was difficult in Emerald. And I don't know, does today's Victory Road give you that feeling, or is it...
So, I will say this, there basically is no Victory Road in Sword and Shield. The closest thing you have is Route 11, but Route 11 basically has one road with 5 trainers on it. So you don't have to worry about trying to navigate this giant tunnel with random Pokemon popping out at you, and trying to find your way through the maze of strength boulders and rock smashes and surfs, and so you lose that whole this is my final challenge moment. This is just you get there and the city's there, which granted I was blown away by the city when I first saw it, because you get up to the top of this hill and boom, it's the city right there, and you're like, wow, that's actually pretty cool.
Nice.
But besides the point, if you really think back on it, you have no sense of accomplishment going up that hill. You beat a couple trainers with some ice types. So what?
Yikes. That's definitely... Yeah, no, you definitely need a little more than that. Victory Road, you know, if I want to think in terms of world lore, which I know is an iffy subject to get in at best, but if you could get through Victory Road, that marks something. I think in a lot of ways that's the same as getting a gym badge, or, you know, getting through so many of the Elite Four. And I think having a Battle Pyramid style, or a Victory Road style, or anything like that, like a maze with trainers and random encounters like you're talking about, I think that would add a lot more in terms of just incentive to battle, I think is what we're really talking about here. Reasons to make battling more of a central focus of the game.
Yeah, and just to kind of come back on the battling a little bit, there is the whole idea of just how hard the game is. I know a lot of people seem to have this complaint about the newer games, about them kind of hand-holding you as you go through the game, but I will give Sword and Shield this. Because of the lack of trainers on the actual routes and in the wild area, you only have, like, camping and catching Pokemon as main ways of getting XP. So you could either be absurdly overleveled from catching a whole bunch of Pokemon, which is what I did on my first Shield game, and I still struggled with the first gym. Granted, I only had a Sobble and a Tyrogue, and I had to fight an Eldergoss and a whatever his other grass type is.
I think he has the flower.
I don't remember that thing's name.
No, I don't either.
No, well, whatever. I had to fight those two things with a Pokemon who already was at a type disadvantage, and a Pokemon whose only good move was Fake Out. So that's a funny story, which I'll have to go into later, about how I beat him. But once I beat that gym, it seemed like the rest of them got progressively easier. Nessa was still a bit of a challenge because I was still at a type disadvantage with only 2 Pokemon, and granted that was kind of on me. But I feel like if I were to run through a game another time with a Pokemon with a type type advantage, such as Scorbunny or even just a Snover, who's a grass and ice type, so he would beat both of those first 2 gyms. I feel like I would be at an advantage, and my Pokemon would be so much better going through those gyms.
Yeah, now I can speak to that. My starter Pokemon was Grookey, and I also caught Rookidee right off the bat. I had no idea that it was eventually going to evolve into Corviknight, so when it evolved into Corvisquire, I was like, oh my goodness, this is awesome. But the first 2 gyms were incredibly easy for me. I did do some power leveling inside the wild area, and I came at them with fairly high. I think I already had a Thwackey when I got there, or I was very close to it. But regardless, I did not have to do hardly any training in between those 2 gyms. And even going into the Fire-type gym, I caught a Choodle. I think I caught Choodle before I got to the first gym even, because they're available at the professor's house down there. So if you play type advantages, I will say the game is a bit of a breeze.
Now, I will speak to leveling just a little bit. I know in other games, like, I've had no problem getting my starter to evolve before the first gym. Mm-hmm. But that is only using the starter and all the trainer battles that were usually along the way. But since Sword and Shield has very few trainers, which is odd, I would think.
Yeah, I definitely think the amount of battles, just as a whole, and we would have to look at some numbers for this, but my overall impression is I have battled way less trainers than usual.
Oh, yeah.
My main source of XP is the wild area.
Yeah, which, I mean, granted, is a good source of XP because you get to both camp and battle Pokemon for grinding purposes, which is more of a grinding feel, but it does take away from past games in which you actually have to fight trainers in order to show, hey, I'm the best trainer on this continent. Like, get on my level.
Yeah, I kind of feel like a cheat. Most of my Pokemon levels have been gained from XP candies, and that's cool and all, but we're not here for the wild area. But the wild area is only one part of the game, and I feel like it was weighted more heavily.
And just some other things like move removal. Like, I will say I have a level 80 Inteleon. I don't know the stats on this, but he's supposedly supposed to learn Ice Beam, which, I mean, yeah, that's a really high level move, but usually most Pokemon stop learning moves by level 70.
And it feels so much slower to learn new moves. I mean, and who knows, maybe you can contest this. Maybe you got some stats that prove me wrong, but I can tell you, as a player, based on feeling, I felt like it took forever to learn new moves. My Choodle only learned 2 Water-type moves. It knew Water Gun, and then later it learned Scald. For offensive Water-type moves, that is lacking. Like, where is my Water Pulse that's learned in the level 20s?
See,
or Aqua Tail, or Aqua Rush, or, like, where are these moves?
Do you mean Aqua Jet?
Yes, I do. I mean Aqua Jet.
Okay.
Well, they rush at them.
It's Aqua
Bad
Jet.
with names.
But just some things about that is there are good moves that I was playing through Shield, and I ran into a trainer who used a Grimmsnarl. Actually, it might have been Marnie in the Elite Four. Anyways, so with Marnie, I was fighting her Grimmsnarl, and I noticed it used Darkest Lariat, which is an Incineroar-specific move, and I was like, that feels kind of cheap, because for the last 3 or so games, all these Pokemon learn a move that's kind of specific to them. Like, for example, I have a Hitmontop on my team as well, who knows Triple Kick. No other Pokemon, to my knowledge, learns Triple Kick. And next thing I know, I'm running into a Grimmsnarl who knows Darkest Lariat, but back in Alola, only Incineroar could learn Darkest Lariat.
Is this like Blaziken's Sky Uppercut? Or was his Blaze Punch?
It was Blaze Kick.
Blaze Kick, okay. So it is like, this evolution has this cool move, and...
Yeah, like, Inteleon has Snipe Shot, Rillaboom has his Drum Beat,
Yep.
Like, these are moves that are specific to the Pokemon. And, I don't know. Part of me feels just a little bit cheated when I see another Pokemon use that move, because it's like, well, if I really wanted to get that move, I would just get a Pokemon that could learn that move.
Right.
And it feels less special when I see another Pokemon use it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you that one guy who teaches you, like, Grass Pledge in one of the games. What if everyone had Grass Pledge? Well, what's the point of him teaching me this super secret ultimate grass-type move? Don't devalue moves like that. It's like, it would be if, like, Ho-Oh has that move.
Sacred Fire?
Yeah, Sacred Fire. What if every fire type could learn Sacred Fire? Well, that seems a little weird to me.
Yeah. But getting off that tangent, another thing that we've kind of taken notice is the Dynamax and Gigantamax phenomenon. So
Now, I have a good bit of issue with this.
I'll let you talk on this one then.
Specifically with the way that Gigantamax works. So like I mentioned previously, I caught a Rookidee first thing because I just thought, you know what? Bird type, he looks cool. This little boy is going to be feisty. And I named him Richard because my theme was like English nobility names. I don't know. Do you guys theme your Pokemon names?
Tell us in the comments below.
Whoop! But yeah, no. I brought him all the way to Corviknight, and he's been in my... I don't think I've ever had him out of my party. Our friendship is all the way up, and he's held on when he should have been knocked out a couple times. And like, I really like my Rookidee Richard. And when I found out that I can Dynamax him for sure, but if I want to Gigantamax him, I have to throw him away, go to a den, and find a Gigantamax Corviknight. That super grinds my gears, and I feel like it goes against the whole idea of Pokemon, which is Opal tells off Hop for going to find stronger Pokemon to make his team stronger. You should be trying to bring out the full power of your Pokemon. Well, I am, but your mechanics have made it so that if I want them to reach their true potential, I have to go find a better version of them. I'm not trading cars here. I want to keep my Pokemon that I caught and raised, and boy, am I fired up about it!
And guys, don't worry. We did not have a Klinklang use Gear Grind on him.
I'm just this fired up!
But anyways, I was really confused. I didn't know that's how you did that when I first was playing through Shield. And I got all the way through, and I had a Grimmsnarl. And I had watched Marnie Gigantamax hers, and I was like, what? This guy can Gigantamax? So I played through the rest of the game, and I just Dynamaxed him, but I was still wondering, like, how do I get that Gigantamax? The game never really explains that. And
no, it's a super big hole in it, and I just...
Especially since every gym leader past Milo Gigantamaxes.
Yeah, I think so. I can't remember if Nessa does, but I know for sure that Kabuto's Sizzlipede does.
Yeah, so it's like, why not tell us what this does? Like, maybe have... I don't know, Sonia could have just briefly mentioned it in passing, being like, so your Pokemon can Gigantamax, but you have to... But the only way they can do that is, I don't know, they get enough power from the den. That would maybe clue the player in being like, oh, in order to Gigantamax, I would need to go do this.
Or even saying, some den Pokemon have been known to Gigantamax. Then that tells me it's den Pokemon, and maybe I would have gotten them from the den first instead of choosing ones that I've now taken through many gyms. It very much goes against what I think is the general and central idea of Pokemon, is that you are friends with your Pokemon. Don't make me call an N. I will liberate all your stinking Pokemon. Every single one of them.
So something else about the Gigantamax thing is I know they were doing this to try to replace Z-moves from Alola and Mega Evolutions from X and Y.
I liked Mega Evolution.
Mega Evolution was fantastic. They didn't, however, need to completely ban it because pros hated it. Like, sorry, if you didn't like it, then just don't let the pros play it. So, my whole thing is, what if you've given a subset of Pokemon this really cool ability, but there's Pokemon that fall within that subset that don't get that ability? And this kind of falls into Mega Evolution anyways, with... You've given two sets of starters now, Mega Evolutions, But now you have all these other starters that are suddenly now inferior to that because they can't Mega Evolve.
You got to think about more than just the game you're making, in all honesty. Because, it's like, oh, if I want to trade these Pokemon up to new games, either they're going to have their Mega Evolution and I'm going to prefer them over whatever you have because I want to Mega Evolve, or they're not going to be able to Mega Evolve and I'm going to feel like, well, what happens now?
Yeah, and then I get that they had to remove Z-moves too, but if you're gonna have a world in which these things exist, don't just blow them off as if they don't. Because, I mean, at least for Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, they acknowledged that Mega Evolutions were a thing. And that is found in a completely different region as X and Y. Whereas these other 3 games that have come out after don't, or I guess 2 games at this point, don't even acknowledge that they've could Mega Evolution before. And so that just kind of shows, it feels like they don't want to throw more resources in where they need to be.
Yeah, and I don't know why this is. In all honesty, I know they can say what they want, but I do have to wonder if the real reason is, does Game Freak just not want to do it? And I think we can get into that a little bit later here. But first, I want to ask, how did you feel about XP share being always on?
I kind of liked it.
If I'm going to be honest, yeah.
At least you knew that there was nothing you could do to turn it off.
Yeah.
And while I did have some Pokemon that were weaker, I would know that these Pokemon would eventually at least get to a level to where they could be. Whereas with the 1 XP share, you had to spend much more time trying to get a Pokemon up to that level. And I'm going to throw my Snom in for an example. Yes, I caught a Snom. It was adorable.
Team Snom.
And I caught it way late in the game. I was going into the 7th gym. I was going up against the Dark-type gym. And I was like, there's a Snom. It's adorable. And it's exactly what I need to build my team. An Ice and Bug-type, which covered some weaknesses that I had on my team. And so I was like, I will catch this and I will use it. And the XP share, while it didn't, fast level my Pokemon, it still made sure it still got a little bit of levels. And for balance reasons, I mean, if I had used another Pokemon, I will admit Snom's a bit weak. It's kind of sad, but it's weak. And so
can't all be winners.
So is its evolution. It's really bad. But my Pokemon were still, having to have a challenge if they wanted to fight other trainers. And all the Pokemon in every level, in Wild Area or Routes, would be scaled to my level, not just scaled to the area, which is a great idea if you're going to have XP share on all the time. Because now you know, okay, if I catch a Pokemon here, it's already going to be similar level anyways.
Yeah. So
having that XP share, giving that extra XP out to everybody, isn't that big of a deal.
Right. And to follow, because I'm sure we'd get called out on this, I do understand that some people are more concerned with the fact of what it represents. So let's talk about that for a second. There are things that have not made it through games. We talked about moves getting cut, and that was real, present, and definitely felt while we played the game. And I know that turning on and off the XP share does also sort of represent that and represent them taking the choice away. But I think XP share is actually maybe an exception to that rule, just for the fact of, did you ever turn XP share off when you got Team XP share in the other games?
No. I had never had a reason to.
I never did either. And if we go all the way back to Gen 3, when you only had one EXP share, I was constantly cycling it through Pokemon in order to level all of them. And I don't know, turning it on and off, can I see why it would be something you need? Yes, but I don't think this is a move in the same vein as cutting things and taking away choice. I think it's just more of a, let's spend our time doing something else. no one really toggles it, and most players who play Pokemon games, and prepare yourself, they're not hardcore players. They just want to play the game.
Hashtag children.
Even me, I typically fall into the casual Pokemon player. I just enjoy to play it. I don't really look for stats or abilities or anything like that. I just like to play the game. So, XP share on for me, yes, I think that makes sense. I think they're looking at a broader audience, and they weren't taking away the option. They were just taking away something that... Or not even taking away, they just weren't adding in something that never gets used. It's kind of like, don't add in a tutorial for the tutorial. No, why would you ever do that?
Yeah.
That makes no sense. So does it make sense to put in something that people haven't used since Gen 2?
Yeah.
Which is turning it off.
Yeah, and to go off that, if you look at every other RPG game out there, your whole party gets XP anyways. It's not like that's a new concept to RPG world.
Like in Dragon Quest, it doesn't matter if I kill them with my first character, everyone's getting XP from it. And if it's really that big of a deal, then I guess I only travel with one party member? But the whole goal is that you're not supposed to do things by yourself. This is team building, this is friend building, this is everyone working together.
It's team building exercise. If you just let them fall on you, break your back, it's fine.
All together now. But yeah, I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Why are we all so shocked about Pokemon having a game mechanic similar to every other RPG? It's an RPG game, guys. Pokemon is not off somewhere in its own world following its own conventions. No, it is an RPG.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we touched into the story some. Do we want to...
Yeah, let's throw that in there. So, yeah. I actually didn't care for the story. I was more indifferent. I think that's a better word for it. The thing I liked about it was it took... Okay, let me rephrase this. The thing I disliked about it is it took the story out of your hands. And I noticed a lot of people on social media kind of noticed this, and I don't know if you noticed it, but every time some, shocking thing happened, like an earthquake or a Dynamax Pokemon appearing, it was all Leon and Sonia going, oh, just go continue your gym challenge, everything's fine. Okay?
Yeah, and this, like I said, I haven't completed the game yet, but my character is super passive in everything that happens. So we go from, the hero of ideals, or the hero of... Is it dreams?
Shoot, I don't remember.
Either way, dreams or ideals. You go from being a hero who has this destined encounter with Zekrom or Reshiram, to this real passive observer, and you don't even have, there's no team, so antagonist-wise, it's super weak for a long time. At least all that I've played, I have no antagonist right now. Bede's a butt, but that's about it. I mean, the storyline feels more like occasionally I trip across the main character having an event. And when I'm playing a game, I don't want to play as a side character. Now, if you can build a game that's structured around that well, sure. But this is not well structuring sidekick. This is literally, I just happen to be somewhere when something happens, and it has little to no impact on me, and that's not interesting.
No, which I understand from the story standpoint. You haven't encountered this yet. But from the story standpoint, that actually fits in just a little bit. Mm-hmm. The encounters themselves help define the end of the story.
Okay.
So, for example, the Dynamax Pokemon appearing is, spoiler alert, a result of Chairman Rose messing with Eternus. I think it's Eternus or Eternum, whatever the Pokemon is.
I knew he was a bad guy.
Eternum, the third Pokemon, and leaking Dynamax energy out into the whole world, or the whole region of Galar. And by the end of the story, yes, you're now directly involved because you're literally fighting on par with the champion. So this time people acknowledge your strength. But there are other sprinklings throughout the story, such as running into the Dynamax Pokemon, where Leon takes care of it before you even really get there.
Right.
And after that, you run into the city, and it's just like, oh yeah, everything's fine. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, no, it's not. Like, I can help. Let me do something.
Right, or like when Bede is destroying the mural with the Copperjaw, I thought, I did battle him, but there was no real... I didn't stop it. The chairman showing up stopped it, and that's confusing to me.
Especially since in most Pokemon games, when you beat somebody, they usually lose the will to do anything.
Yeah, or at least I should have been able to knock the Copperjaw unconscious. And yeah, I know, don't be mean to Pokemon, but it would have fainted, that's all. Can't use Rock Smash anymore. That's all I'm looking for.
I miss that move.
I do miss Rock Smash.
That was a good move.
So yeah, the story for me hasn't quite done it. It's not bad, though.
I did like the very end with Chairman Rose turning on the world because his idea was Galar's going to run out of energy. We need to do something now because he felt personally responsible as the chairman of the one company that runs the entire energy processing for the entire region of Galar. And Leon's just like, dude, just literally wait one day and we can work on this together. But Chairman is a little bit patient. And it's almost like that's his only flaw, is he's just a little impatient.
Yeah, there was a real... And I've sort of felt this, but there seems to be a real decline in... I don't know, maybe they feel like they were getting too villainous, but the bad guys aren't really bad guys. And I know that you kind of like that, it's a good twist. But, like, again, there's no real antagonist, and every good story has an antagonist of some kind that poses like a real threat.
Yeah, for example, see in Alola, there was no real bad guy. Team Skull was just a bunch of punks who just didn't want to follow the rules, but they weren't really harming anybody other than taking that one girl's gumshoes. But that was more to send a message to your character being like, yo, back off. But of course you don't listen, you go beat him. We all know that story. But then you find out with Lusamine and her crazy obsession with the Ultra Beasts, like, that's a little bit more villainous than Team Skull's rambunctiousness.
Right.
But at least for that, you see her decline in, I guess, a mental state, because she's, like, too obsessed with these Ultra Beasts to realize what's happening to her, and then so you have to put a stop to that.
Yeah, and once again, she becomes a victim of circumstance.
Yeah.
Not a malicious... Man, like, Archie didn't care. He's gonna flood the whole world.
Deal
with it.
That was basically the battle of climate change. Do we want more water? Do we want less? Archie wanted more water.
And Max? Dude, whatevs. I'll summon a Primal Groudon. He'll freaking land the whole world.
And then you've got Team Flare, which, like... basically in on an extreme scale we're gonna just kill all the humans.
Yeah.
That was it.
Team Galactic, I guess their kind of goal was bye-bye universe.
It was create a new world. It was not just bye-bye universe. It was like, no, we want a world in which the world is perfect. That was basically it.
Yeah.
And then you've got Team Rocket, who's basically just a mafia. Like, good villains in their own right.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with having good villains, so long as we make sure that games aren't glorifying that. And I don't feel like they were ever glorified. Yeah. So if that's the justification for the removal of any real antagonist, I've got to say I think it's pretty weak.
I forgot about Team Plasma, but their whole goal was just to make a new kingdom, right?
Team Plasma was a bit of a mixed one, and I think for one of those reasons they're one of the most interesting. Because you do have In, who is technically the leader of it all, and he wants to liberate Pokemon, and he does have pure goals, but this organization, they're just a bad guy. They're just bad guys. But what I did like is that they did appear as good guys. So now that's interesting. Guys who are really bad, but appear good. Now we've got something going on. Not good guys who do a little bit of bad in order to do good. That just sort of, I don't know. I like RPG games. Give me a world-ending threat. That trope doesn't get old so long as you keep the way that they're going about it fresh. Put some urgency in it. I feel zero urgency in Galar.
I think a good theme for this one would have just been pollution too, because you've got Galarian Weezing, you've got Cursula, which is the evolved form of Corsola now, who's quite literally dead, and you've got all these Pokemon in the Galar decks that talk about climate change. They're like, yo, this is a problem. So maybe for this game, I think a better villain, maybe not making Team Yell seem like the villain, maybe throw in a few people with who's like, we're gonna go see what this darkest day is, and wonder if that was the day that humanity discovered how to harness Dynamax energy, and that's what they think is the darkest day.
Yeah, because you could even like do that with like, you know, coal burning produces smog into the air. There's your dark day, a literally darkened atmosphere, and you know you just substitute coal with usage of Dynamax energy, the draining the. You know, I just think there were other ways they could have gone with that.
To be honest, Xerneas and Yveltal and Zygarde would have been better legendaries for this because they're literally life, death, and the balance between.
Yeah, I think I honestly do. They could have been really good legendaries for this region.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we wanted
to talk a little bit about post game.
Right.
That was so. I know we touched a little bit on this early in the video with comparisons to Gen 3, but there is absolutely nothing to do in the post game, and it's sad. The only thing is the battle tower, which is basically the same as every other, and there's no post story story other than going with Hop on this small chase of I forget their names. It's like Shieldbert and Sorbert. I don't know. They're really weird. You'll laugh at them later.
Now, is that the post game to get the actual legendaries?
Yeah.
Which did throw me off. I think that's just. I did kind of like that because it is a throwback to you did not just get Groudon for playing. It wasn't a thanks for playing. Here's your customary legendary.
Well, no.
Does it do that?
Yeah, because in Ruby and Sapphire, you after the event, you could just go catch them. Or you catch them in order to calm them down.
Oh, see, in Emerald, the only way to get them is
through Rayquaza. See, that's where that comes in.
Okay.
Rayquaza would come in, tell the two to go away, and then he would fly back to a Sky Pillar.
And then you could
go find him. Okay. But that wasn't a post-story thing. You could do that anytime after that.
Right.
But with Zacian and Zamazenta, you just complete the story and then boom, they're yours. Which I'm not quite sure if Dynamax catches are guaranteed. Do you know that?
I'm not sure.
Okay, because that's something I'll have to check. Because it just feels like after every Dynamax catch, it's just guaranteed no matter what I use. But I could be wrong. But then there's this whole idea of, yeah, now Hop is got your other legendary, which almost seems a weird dynamic because it's like now your rival has your other legendary. How are you going to get him? Other than trading him over, which is how most people would do it anyways. But there were games that would let you go back and try to find trying to find the opposite one.
Yeah.
I know Ruby and Sapphire let you do that. Diamond and Pearl let you do that. They would give you an item that would unlock the event to go get the other one, which they kind of set that up, but then they took it away with Hop. But once you finish that story, you've got nothing else. You can go run around the wild area and camp with your Pokemon, but what else were you doing all this game? Doing that same exact thing. You can go get your Charmander from Leon's room, and then you can go battle Game Freak. But all these things were in other past games, and it just feels like once you complete that story, you've got really nothing else to do.
Yeah, like I would have hoped for something more like, if you remember back to the Unova region, you got to track down the sages and put an end to Plasma, so to speak. And it's interesting, and it gives you another, at least a couple hours of gameplay, I'd say. And it's unique, and it's, I don't know, it's just what I would expect of a post-game. You know, just a little something to do that makes you feel like you've tied up some loose ends. Yeah. So I think our last thing to talk about here is, what do we want to see in future games? And I know we've sort of, by a lot of the things that we've said, you can pick up on some of the things we'd like to see, but we're just going to open it up to whatever we'd like to see. For example, I would love to finally see Pokemon walking behind you make a comeback. Heart Gold did it right. You can't change my mind because that's just Heart Gold did it right.
And then you got Let's Go, which did it with this graphics,
Which was a good.
which is pretty cool.
I'll do that.
Something I would like to see. I'd like to see another wild area. I actually really enjoyed the wild area. It felt like a new spin on the regular run-through areas, but put a few more trainers in if you're going to do that. Like, I don't mind if they're just littered throughout the wild area, and then you can run into one every once in a while. But, and I understand it's also the kind of the hub of online, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd like that.
The only other thing I can think of that I would like to see, because in general, I do really enjoy it, but I would like to see some cut content come back, just as an overall. Maybe something like, I don't know, roller skates come back. I thought that was a fun thing to do. I think it's good to experiment with some things, and maybe I'd like to see a little more of those type of experimental items come back. I've always wondered when we're going to see a scooter as the main method of transportation, like we see in, I believe it is the Johto region manga. Let's see some of that, maybe? Roller skates, I was like, well, okay, now you've spooked me. Now something's different. And I would also like to walk at more than one speed again. This weird half jog, half run isn't cutting it for me.
I see, for me, I feel like that's okay, because I would just hold on the B button anyways.
Well, I mean,
I would never walk somewhere unless I was dramatically playing to myself, deciding that I was going to casually approach the Elite Four, just do a quick turn, like, ha, here I am, now fight me.
Yeah.
But other than that, I had no reason to go slow.
Yeah, I was more referencing the Heart Gold, like, there was a very distinct... I don't know, I feel, maybe that's just the way the graphics look, I feel like the character moves much slower these days. And again, that could just be graphics. What's one thing you don't want to see come back?
Oh, the hop animation. Please, for the love of all things, just give them some different animations instead of this.
If I have to see one more double kick where all they do is go, look it, I'm gonna lose it.
We've got to get some animations going, guys.
Pokemon is too big of a franchise. It brings in too much money. It is a global cultural thing. This is not just a game. If the Wii in Battle Revolution, if the Wii had animations that looked that good, we're on the Nintendo Switch now, which has that much processing power and then some. I expect to see that level of graphics. If you have to spend longer on the game, do it. I do not want to see a static sprite go again. That is just...
This is one of the topics in which we could go for days on.
Fired up! I think the other thing would be, for me, Dynamax.
You don't want to see it?
I'd like to see something, again, more creative. We are on the Nintendo Switch. Use the processing power. Mega Evolution really changed to Pokemon. Getting bigger doesn't do it for me.
See, I would counteract that with I would want to see it come back now that they've implemented it as a mechanic. Because if we're gonna say that for the Mega Evolution and Z moves, I gotta be fair and say we gotta at least bring that back too.
Okay, yeah. I guess my only other flip would to be that whatever they choose, just stick with it. Make it a stand-in. I don't think gimmicky moves like that, gimmicky battles. I don't know. They're built into the lore so heavily that it seems weird to take them out, because they're always like the next big breakthrough in Pokemon research, and then suddenly they don't exist in the world, and that does seem a little weird.
And give me another Cynthia champion, please. I want a challenge when I fight the champion, not... Okay. Can I tell my story?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So, I was fighting Leon, and I was severely underleveled for him, and I had all my Pokemon, maybe, except two. My Inteleon and my Hitmontop were maybe... My Inteleon was on level with them, but my Hitmontop was maybe 1 or 2 levels lower. Everybody else was at least 5 to 10 levels lower than Leon. I didn't realize that Leon would have that big of a jump. But... and I mean a big butt. I went in to fight him, And not only could some underleveled Pokemon one-hit his Pokemon, my Inteleon, pulling the biggest of upsets, decided for, hear me out, 6 turns in a row to hold on with 1 HP left.
That's just crazy. Come on.
Meaning I could revive my entire team and heal my Inteleon and then wipe out the rest of his team. But I mean, that was me also being really fired up about wanting to beat Leon on my first try. So
right, but sure, they at least should have made you. There has got to be something said for if you're going to tout him as the unbeatable champion. If I come in half-cocked, I ought to get creamed. That's on me for coming in there and thinking my party of... and I don't know the levels for Leon, but let's say if 70 is recommended. If I come in with a bunch of 65s, I ought to be kicked out so hard that I don't even think of coming back for another 10 years. Like, come on. He's the champion.
Also, I don't think his team would even be on par to Cynthia's. Because Cynthia's team was designed so well, in such a way that just counteracted each other's weaknesses. Like, dang. Okay.
Yeah.
But you can already tell 2 of his Pokemon before you even get to him, which is the starter he picked up at the beginning, and Charizard.
Right.
So you already know 2 Pokemon in which you need to beat a type advantage for. And if, as in with Diamond and Pearl, when you run into Cynthia for the first time, you have no idea that she's going to throw out a Spiritomb with 0 weaknesses first.
Right. And I think it's important that a champion has to be very difficult. If we look back at Lance, one of the things that made Lance such a tough champion is he used dragons, and the only counter to dragons back then, I think it was just ice types.
No, it was dragon. It was just dragon.
Oh, you're right.
They didn't have ice types yet.
If you come on, that Lance was... I had trouble with Lance.
I mean, granted, they were all Dragonites, and you could just use Rock-type moves because they were also all flying types.
Yeah.
But still.
The idea remains that they should be powerful and have few weaknesses. And I do like the idea of a more balanced champion, because if the trainer has a mixed party of 6 Pokemon, the champion should too. Because, inside the game, people are always like, wow, you're training a lot of different types of Pokemon. And if you look at all the stuff that exists for it, it's very clear why that's difficult. Different sleeping habits, different eating habits. They need different types of care. They need different environments. I think the champion should always do that. The champion needs to be as good or better than the player.
Just as a good cherry on top.
Yeah.
Just give me a heart champion, please.
Make it a challenge.
Please.
I don't mind losing to the champion.
Until he flaunts that he's unbeatable, and then I'm like, nah, I gotta pound you into the ground.
Yeah. But, as a general rule of thumb, if I have to challenge him a couple times, okay.
My favorite thing about all the past games, even in Alola, is for the Elite Four, I had to fight an Elite Four. Not just all my past rivals. Mm-hmm. Which is lame. Sorry. But I know Marnie's party at this point. I know Bede's party at this point. I know Hop's party at this point.
Sad as it is.
And those are the only 3 you have to fight. I mean, it is kind of cool that you get to do tournament style to get to the top. But there's the whole... Yeah, you re-challenge the gym leaders, but that's a fun post-game thing.
Right.
Yeah, you get to refight your rivals, but that's a post-game thing. And if you're going to give me a final challenge leading up to the champion... Give me 4 elite trainers that I would have to be able to beat in one go without healing my Pokemon. That's just how I play. Yeah. Every time I play, I go into the Elite Four, and I try to fight as many as I can without healing, and then when I get up to the champion, if I need to die with 1 Pokemon left, I will enter that battle, and I will die with 1 Pokemon left. But I will keep grinding the Elite Four, because they're the best sort of XP right then.
They really are.
And I will keep doing that until I... beat the champion.
Now, if you do want a tournament, well, I think, okay, we have plenty of material for that. You have to win the tournament to face the Elite Four. I'm pretty sure that's how it's structured in the anime.
Yeah, it is.
So, why are the games different? Now that I know you can do a tournament, Game Freak, if you continue to do the Pokemon games, I'm expecting you to make it more like the anime, because I just think there's a lot more to the anime, and I think it'd be impressive to add that in, because, they were getting, like, AJ's gym from the Indigo League was just like, that was a cool encounter. I don't know, I think they need to step up as a development studio, and if you don't want Pokemon, give it away.
He'll take it.
I'll take it. But in all honesty, I do think that whoever works on Pokemon, they can't be burnt out by it. If you're too tired to continue doing and putting 100% into these games, pass it on. If you don't want to be known just for Pokemon games, pass it on. That's what it really comes down to. You've got it, when working with a franchise like this, you really have to go above and beyond every single time. That's just a requirement.
Sorry.
Alright, I think that's all we've got for today.
Or at least, hopefully, we haven't chewed out your ears for listening to this.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed what we had to say. This is a topic that we're super passionate about, so I'd like to imagine that most of you are too. Remember, like, subscribe, follow at The Motley Broadcast on Instagram, Motley Broadcast on Twitter. This episode specifically, along with a few other of our more in-depth talks, are also available as podcasts on Google Podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, pretty much wherever you get your podcasts. So go ahead and check those out. And one last thing, if you are into Dungeons and Dragons, the Motley Broadcast also produces Perilous Path, which is a D&D podcast featuring me, him,
Hi.
that guy over there who you can't see, and some other people. It's pretty good. Right now, I think there's 3 episodes up when this comes out, so might want to check it out. That's The Perilous Path. You can find it on Instagram at The Perilous Path, and again, wherever you find podcasts, The Perilous Path. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye!